Welcome back to the Tailosive Movie Reviews Podcast. Today I'm joined by the co-host, the man of the hour, the guy with the most movies, the most excitement and passion about movies, and also the most Model Ys on this entire show, Mr. Mike. How are you?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for joining.
Of course, anytime.
Thanks for helping me make this, because this is mostly because of you. The reason why this show's happening is because you and I were nerding out about, I believe it was Clone Wars, and Drew and Randy both had no idea what we were talking about. And we're like, we should make a podcast.
Definitely. And here we are. I mean, who better to talk about movies than the great Nick and Sweeney and some fantastic movies. But what are we covering today, Nick?
You know, I was thinking that we would cover WALL-E, but I guess, I didn't watch WALL-E, and I imagine you haven't watched WALL-E because I just switched this up at the last second. So let's actually do Toy Story 2. How does that sound?
I could do Toy Story 2, I guess. Yeah, I think I was watching it last night or the night before, one of those nights. Anyways, Toy Story 2, our first
just
sequel.
Happened to write 40 pages of notes there. I saw those, Mr. Organization over there.
But yeah, it's our first sequel that we're covering, at least on the podcast, unless you call the original series of Star Wars a sequel to the prequels. But I guess the prequels are almost like a sequel. Anyways, Toy Story 2. Man, it's been 22 years since this thing came out. And honestly, it was a joy watching it again. I loved it.
I was really impressed. I don't know if they did a remake of it. You know how Disney and specifically George Lucas will go back and remake movies? But, the very beginning intro scene where Buzz Lightyear is, going through Zurg's, palace, the graphics are, impressive. I was like, dang, this does not look like 1999. This looks like at least 2010. It was good.
I remember as a kid watching that, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I need to watch this and play this or something, because I was a big video game nerd when I was a kid. I guess I'm still kind of a video game nerd. But at least as a kid, change? No, not really. But at least watching this is wow, this is fantastic. And of course, noticing it now, and especially after watching Star Wars, it's wow, they grabbed a lot of Skywalker sound for this, though I guess Star Wars came out
yes, they did.
15 to 20 years before this, or more than that, honestly.
There was lightsaber sounds, Darth Vader breathing, the shot, the laser shooting, I don't know what that called.
Blaster fire.
Blaster fire, thank you. Yeah, they're definitely copying a little. And honestly, it's been a good hot minute since I've seen Toy Story 2. Probably, 4 years or so, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. So I'm coming at it pretty stale. And I hit play, and we had the Disney intro logo, the Pixar Luxor lamp, and then it started with a space crawl. And I was like, wait a minute, what? It was space. And I was like, what am I watching? Toy Story 2? What? Space? What's going on here? And then as
4.
Buzz Lightyear, exactly, Star Command, I was like, yeah, I remember this. I was just giddy again, because it's a good scene.
Yeah, they have the whole re-entry effect with Buzz coming onto Zurg's asteroid planet or whatever, and it's wow, this is beautiful. I mean, of course, it's probably been retouched for Disney Plus and future versions of Toy Story 2, but it's enough to where you're this is beautiful to watch. I could take a picture, or at least pause the movie at any second and be wow, look at all the detail that is just in this one section of the screen that I'm looking at right now. Like I said, re-entry effects on Buzz's hands or on his legs, a little bit different, but very beautiful.
Yeah. It was very well done. I was so impressed. That whole re-entry scene, you're right. And just the granularity of the world once he lands, there's a lot of depth and character. I think one of the big problems with Toy Story 1 being the very first full-length animated film, it kind of lacked some of the, textures that makes a virtual world feel real. And definitely Toy Story 2 did not disappoint on those little minor details. And did you know that the entire opening scene there, the asset that they used, that canyon asset, so in the production of it, they have all these little three-dimensional assets they put into the Pixar computer to make the 3D scene. The actual asset that they were using for that canyon was the canyon out of Bug's Life.
Yeah, so fun fact, Bug's Life came out a year before this movie. And I did a little bit of research on it. And honestly, Toy Story 2 was going to be a direct-to-home feature that you could buy. It wasn't going to be a theatrical release. And that was because all the lead animators that worked on Toy Story that they were going to use again for Toy Story 2 were working on Bug's Life at the time, and they were still finishing it up. And so in terms of Toy Story 2, it was kind of supply constrained, or at least employee constrained. And so they were really like just trying to figure out, okay, how do we make a good story out of this, but with only so many people, in which if you look at the credits, there's a boatload of animators that worked on this. But they actually only had 9 months to work on this, which is insane compared to the first one. I forget how many months they had to work on the first one, but this one, they only had 9 months to work on it, and that was after doing some rewrites to the plot, because once Disney said, okay, never mind, we'll do a theatrical release with Toy Story 2, Pixar was like, you need to redo this script because it doesn't look good. And Pixar's like, oh no, or at least the team for Toy Story 2 is like, oh no. So
just minor things like fix the script.
Yeah, fix the script, which they did over a weekend, which I just thought was astounding. Wow. Yeah, for watching this whole entire thing as a kid, I'm like, this seems like a perfectly solid story of like what goes on with the second act almost of these toys in their life and with their relationship with Andy. And instead, like in the background, it's just people running around with their hands on fire and filing cabinets open and papers all over the place. And it's just like, what are we going to do? But anyways, I mean, learning all of this, it definitely impresses me on the product that Toy Story 2 is, in which we're going to dive into. But man, such great work from John Lasseter, who wrote and directed this, along with Andrew Stanton, who, fun fact, is the voice of Zurg in this. We finally get to see Zurg, which is pretty neat.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that there's a cameo there. One quick other little piece of trivia on this movie. Did you know that they almost deleted all of the assets for Pixar's Toy Story 2? Did you know that all of those assets were almost deleted? I recall hearing
that at one point, but I thought that was a rumor. But that's true.
No, it was written in a book. Someone did like a kind of biography, like what it was like working at Pixar back in the day. And evidently, they were getting pretty close to being done with Toy Story 2. And there was all of their assets, right? Back in 1999, 1998, when we were working on this, they couldn't store the assets for an entire scene on a desktop computer. So it was all server-based. And so each one of the desktops were basically just a client looking at the data that was on the server. And some engineer accidentally deleted all of the assets on the server for a good chunk of the movie, like 2/3 of the movie or something. Just accidentally deleted them. And there were no backups because these were really big files. And, you know, as data as it normally happens with data pieces, things go missing and you don't have backups at the worst possible time. But thankfully, a lady, an animator, was working from home because I think she just had a kid or something and she was on maternity leave. And so she was kind of going back between Pixar and home. And after like a good afternoon, or maybe it was 2 days of like everyone freaking out that they deleted all of the assets, the lady was like, oh, I have a copy of everything on these hard drives in my computer at home, because she was working on it at home and, you know, had to have some assets, physically at her house. And so there's this funny story of a bunch of lead animators at Pixar and IT guys going into this lady's home, gingerly unplugging her computer, taking it, setting it in the back of a car, packing it with packing blankets, gingerly driving it back to Pixar headquarters, and they started it up, and lo and behold, all of those assets were still on her computer, and so they were able to be restored. And that was just another little story about how Toy Story 2 almost didn't happen.
That's astounding. And for a movie that had very, troublesome beginnings, to have all those issues like 2/3 of the way through. It's like, wow, how did this thing ever become a thing? Or at least, sorry, how that's a sentence. How did this movie ever become an actual feature? But it did, and it has a fantastic cast as well. We got people like who plays Al, who's like our main villain in this movie. Wayne Knight, if that name sounds familiar to you guys, he's the guy who is kind of like the villain, at least in the first Jurassic Park. He's the guy who's like stealing eggs or whatever, and then I think gets... I won't, I guess, spoil that just in case we cover it. He dies at some point. I guess that's a spoiler. But at least for those who loved watching TV around the 90s or sometime around that area, Seinfeld, which was, I'd say it's a cult classic.
Yeah.
He plays, oh goodness, I just lost the name. There it is. He plays Newman, who is Jerry Seinfeld's creepy, weird neighbor who's always either trying to steal things or ask for favors or best Jerry at something. But he plays like this weird, sleazy guy, which I thought was pretty funny thinking about this movie where it's like, oh, it's some weird dude who's just trying to make a quick buck on some children's toys. And yeah. And then also people like Ann Potts, who plays Jessie. We mentioned her in the last Toy Story podcast. Where I forgot who she was and if she was in all of them. I've confirmed, yes, I believe she's in every single Toy Story.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I guess she wasn't in Toy Story 3 because she wasn't there, but I believe in Toy Story 4 she reprises Bo Peep. But she's also, if you can't tell, because of course she's... Or no. Yeah, sorry, Ann Potts. She was also the receptionist in Ghostbusters.
Interesting. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Ghostbusters, what's your problem?
Oh my goodness. Well,
anyways,
definitely star-studded cast, and they say with animated films, it's really the vocal talent that brings the emotion into the characters, because there were still some pretty rough animation scenes, even in Pixar's. I don't know why I keep saying Pixar 2. It's not Pixar 2. Toy Story 2. Oh, it's been a fun day.
Yeah, it has. But I did notice, at least in this movie, they were trying to be a little bit more brave with modeling humans. At least like in the first one, they put you in the shoes of a toy and kind of like you're kind of just looking at ankles of people, which is pretty smart for if you don't really know how to code the dynamics of a person in an animation. But in this one, like you see a lot more of Andy's mom and Andy and other kids, or at least not even just kids, like adults moving around like
adults. Al. Yeah, the guys loading the airplane with baggage. Those were probably the roughest human animations in the whole movie. I saw those guys and I was like, ooh, you guys were an overnight project. I'm very sorry.
I think what saves it is just the dialogue during those scenes as well, or at least the actions that are going on around. Like, you're not maybe... If you're paying attention, you could tell that the animation's a little bit weird, but at least like with the action of what he's doing, which is typical like airline behavior of some dude who's packing up all of the luggage into the plane, and he's just like tossing all the fragile stuff. He doesn't care what it is. He's just tossing it in there. You just hear glass breaking. Like, ooh, well, I guess that's probably what happened to my camera when I went to Idaho or something like that. This dude just totally crushed it.
Oh. That's no good. Well, I think we're getting a little off track here.
Definitely.
After we have
movie.
Did we get to Emperor Zurg? Is it Emperor Zurg or just Zurg?
So Buzz goes through this whole entire like Indiana Jones ride of like spikes chasing him avoiding other things, avoiding robots. He gets to the power source of Zurg's planet,
and in getting into the power source, there's another 2001: A Space Odyssey Easter egg when he hopped on each one of the little floating plates.
Boom, boom,
yep.
Boom.
Like, oh, perfect, good job, Pixar. Oh my goodness.
And then gets the power source, tries grabbing it, and it's a hologram. It was a trap.
It was a trap.
We're not there yet either.
It's a trap.
There's a lot of Star Wars references in this scene. But Zurg appears and inevitably zaps Buzz to eternity, basically killing him.
I remember
And then
the first time I ever watched this movie, I was probably like 6. And I still remember that moment when it's like action scene, bang, 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 bang. And then it's just with just Buzz's feet and his entire torso's gone. It's just a little wisp of smoke. And I just remember being as a kid like, oh, what just happened?
what happened to Buzz?
What's this whole movie gonna be about now? And then it reveals this is all just a video game. And poor Rex. Rex has probably the best lines. Rex is my spirit animal. He's just awkwardly sized and just doesn't fit anywhere. Poor guy's arms aren't long enough, so he's like, I can't jump and fire at the same time.
Meanwhile, Buzz is right next to him, just like, it's okay, you'll get him next time. As we just watched Buzz get eviscerated on our screens at home. Just like, oh no.
That only caused a little bit of PTSD in my childhood self. I'm okay now.
Definitely. But yeah, and then we finally cut to, of course, the toys in Andy's room. Woody's freaking out because he's going to cowboy camp with Andy and he can't find his hat. And then we get Buzz saying, it's okay, you'll be fine, you'll be cooking some hot schmoes. It's s'mores, Buzz.
Oh my goodness.
There's some good lines in this. I mean, there's a lot of lines that we covered in Star Wars that are very quotable. Mm-hmm. This movie has a lot of quotable lines as well that either steals from Star Wars or some other media or it generates on its own.
And I don't quote Toy Story 2. Like, I can't think of a single Toy Story 2 quote that I've ever used just naturally. But rewatching this, there are so many good ones. Like, yeah, we'll get through to a few of them. But then we cut to the commercial of the chicken and Al's Toy Barn with the deals. That guy.
Some dude in a chicken suit. Of course, you would see like in the 90s or early 2000s, some dude in a chicken suit,
right?
Like raving about toys or food or anything else. Which is our introduction to Al, the weird guy in the chicken suit on the TV. In which
spoiler. Come on, Mike. Spoiler.
Oh my god! Well, I mentioned in the previous podcast on Toy Story that we do get introduced to Al's Toy Barn on the TV at one point.
In Toy Story 1?
But in Toy Story 1, I believe they mention Al's Toy Barn.
Yes, they do. Yeah. When Buzz is realizing he's a toy, it's available at all Al's Toy Barns.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's where it was from. But again, nice. Yeah. And then Slinky comes in with the great news that he found Woody's hat. Turns out he found it somewhere that he's not going to disclose the location of, probably the toilet. Ew. I guess Molly put that in there, or Buster put it in there. Also, the dog from the end of Toy Story 1 is here. It's been maybe a year or so, and Buster is a full-grown puppy running around, listening to Woody and doing everything.
Oh, it's so cute how Woody and Buster have a, shootout, and Buster's real well trained and well behaved, and then just a few seconds later, Andy tries to do the exact same thing, and the dog's just like, huh? And walks off.
Yeah, I'm walking away. Yeah. And then, of course, Andy's mom is like, you have 5 minutes. And then Andy's like, oh, 5 minutes. And he assembles this whole entire, huge make-believe, scene. And it's like, how did you have 5 minutes for this, Andy? But okay, I guess 5 minutes.
It would have taken more than 5 minutes just to set up those little army figures.
Apparently, I guess. Another one of these really cool, just kid playing with toy. Of course, you're just watching a kid play with a toy, but it's that nice feeling of, wow, he loves these toys, and it rekindles that idea of you as a kid playing with toys and having a fun time.
Yes.
But then we get the most unfortunate situation where Buzz helps Woody save the day and save Bo Peep, and they do a nice little arm hug or whatever, and Woody rips his arm. Oh no. Woody's broken.
I've broken my fair share of toys, and let's just say little broken toys never stopped me from playing with a toy. So this whole reaction seemed a little unrealistic, but maybe Andy plays with his toys differently than I did.
Well, to be fair, Andy's mom immediately grabs Woody and then puts him up on the top shelf.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I mean, he could have kept on playing with him, but all right. I guess he's going to collect dust now.
Which, up there, he finds another side character, Wheezy.
Yeah.
I love Wheezy. Wheezy's
Yeah.
so fun.
He's voiced
Poor
by Robert Golette, I believe. And then also later in the movie, Joe Ranft also voices him.
Interesting.
Which we'll get to. But he's voiced by two actors, sadly, who are not present today anymore. They sorely passed 2 years apart. But fantastic voice acting, at least for Wheezy. It definitely gives the emotion of I'm a discarded toy and I'm forgotten. But it's okay.
And the dust looked so nice too. Like
were you
dust
watching on
balls
Disney
top of Wheezy.
Plus or were you watching on
I
the
was.
DVD?
Yeah.
Okay.
So after basically not being able to find any of the VHS tapes that I was hoping to find, I just bit the bullet and did some quick math, and it was going to be much cheaper to do a $70 annual Disney Plus subscription if we're going to be reviewing one of these every week than buying a $20 iTunes movie every week. So,
ooh, yeah, that could get pretty expensive.
Back on the Disney Plus train. I was only off it for like a month.
So we both watched this on Disney Plus, where they probably touched up on the particles, but man, those dust particles everywhere. I'm like, no way this was in the original cut because this is astounding.
Right?
Like
I was like, I think I'm about to sneeze just watching this.
I'm gonna start coughing. Man,
Start wheezing myself.
oh goodness, yeah. And then we find out that Andy leaves for cowboy camp, and somehow his mom gets back a little bit sooner, and then a yard sale.
Hold on.
It sounds like Andy's
Didn't you
mom
skip
just wants
the
to
most
get rid of all the
important
toys.
part?
Oh yeah. How did I
This
forget that?
scene still gives me chills. After I watched this next scene as a kid, I didn't look at my toys the same way. I think since then I've not thrown away any of my toys.
Not even like the Sid scene from Toy Story 1 with them attacking you.
No, this is sadder. Like, the Sid scene was definitely creepy, like all your toys coming out of the sandbox, but this is like sad and depressing, where Andy's like, oh, you're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore. Bye, Woody. It's just falling, and then the toy arm parts are like grabbing him, and he's like, no, and I'm just like, all my poor toys were having the same psychological problem whenever I threw them away. Oh.
I know it's a fake, it's all in Woody's dream. I didn't know that toys could dream, but they do.
Evidently.
Apparently, I mean, he should have noticed that. Well, I guess he was falling. How were Ham, Rex, and the other toys playing cards when all the cards were Ace of Spades?
I saw that.
I know. I'm like, wait, why is everything Ace of Spades? Like, is this some pointer towards something else? Like, what's going on?
I did kind of wonder that, and I guess my thought was it would be the world's quickest game of Go Fish.
Yeah, Go Fish. Oh,
got a Ace of Spades.
Rip. Also, one other thing that we didn't touch on is there's another Potato Head in this movie. There's not just Mr. Potato Head, but Mrs. Potato Head is also in here, voiced by Estelle Harris, who is fantastic. She's got that iconic voice that's like, oh goodness, I'm not even going to try to attempt that voice actually.
Don't do it.
I was going
works.
to. She's also on Seidenfeld, but also on some other shows and movies that you could recognize the voice. It's kind of like that yelling,
kind of raspy,
mom.
like,
yeah,
your angry eyebrows.
And here's your angry eyes. There we go. I
exactly.
It.
That was.
I'm not going to try her yelling, but that's pretty close.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just wanted to mention that.
Honestly, I have a lot of love and nostalgia for Buzz, Woody, Bo Peep, Jesse, all them, but I really do just enjoy watching all the side characters like Rex and Ham and Slink and Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. They have like some of the best lines that really just fit their character. I don't remember where it was in the oh, it was a little bit later when they're on their adventure, but Ham says, why don't we just call it a ham sandwich? And he's talking to Mr. Potato Head, and we'll have some fries and a hot dog. And it was Slink there too, and it was just like, this is very clever writing that
they were trying
only
to get
adults
into Al's apartment, and they were at the bottom of it. And I believe what Ham recommends is that they press the intercom and say that they're delivering a hot dog, some fries, and a ham sandwich. And then Rex is like, well, what am I? And Rex says, Ham says, you're the toy.
Oh, poor Rex always gets the short end of that stick.
So much insult. You're just a toy. Like, they all know they're toys, but at least give the guy a little bit of make-believe. We're jumping the gun right now. But
yeah, sorry. I was thinking of funny
I totally
funny
detoured
lines.
it with Mrs. Potato Head. Anyways, there's a yard sale. Inevitably, Andy's mom comes in, grabs Wheezy somehow, and then it looks like it's the end for Wheezy. He's going to get sold off to some person who's just going to... it's going to be a Buster situation where the dog... Or not Buster, sorry. Sid's dog. I forget what Sid's dog name.
Oh,
Scud?
Gosh.
It's going to be a Scud issue where it's just going to be a dog toy and it's going to get chewed up. And so Woody probably sees this. He's like, all right, time to rescue a toy. And he doesn't tell the other toys. So they think he's going to sell himself for 25 cents.
They're all like, it's a suicide. Oh, that was definitely good. And then the fact that Dog is just so into it, and like he is just doing exactly what Woody wants. It's just so fun to watch that dynamic.
I guess we forget to mention that Woody
friend.
rides him all the way from the second floor of the house all the way down to the yard sale. Pretty interesting animation right there. It jittered a little bit on my end. I don't know whether it's just because maybe my connection to Disney Plus wasn't that well, or maybe the animation just wasn't top notch in that area and they couldn't smooth it out. But it didn't look too bad to me, at least for 1999 animation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he goes, finds Wheezy down there, and puts Wheezy into the collar of Buster, and they're heading back, and then they go to jump over a toy, and at the time, Woody is pushing Wheezy back into the collar, just because
Wheezy was slipping out.
Wheezy's slipping out, and at that time, Buster jumps, and Woody falls off.
Yeah.
And is inevitably picked up by the great, the only Al.
The way he got so giddy when he found Woody kind of always put me on edge. It was just always like, a grown 30-year-old man with a neck beard should not be this excited about a toy doll. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me correct, actually. A little girl picked him up, and then he got flung onto a stack.
And he heard the toys, the string. Yeah.
Anyways, Al finds him, and Al's freaking out over the fact that he found this missing piece to some collection that he's making, but doesn't have his hat. But then he finds the hat. But of course, thankfully, it looks like Woody's gonna be saved by Al's mom,
Andy's mom.
And
I don't know if we ever meet Al's mom.
Oh goodness.
Al's mom did not do a good job raising an upstanding human.
Like you said before, it's been a day.
Al's mom has raised a man who's now a chicken on TV.
Buck, 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 buck.
Saving them bucks.
That's what it is, yeah. And then so it looks like Woody's saved. He's put into a money chest and then left alone on a table. Mm-hmm. Which then, while Al uses a skateboard to make a distraction for Andy's mom, the box is opened and Woody is nowhere to be seen.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Then we have Rescue Party Part 2 where the other toys are like, rescue mission, and Buzz flies out and down the rain spout, I believe, out the window, and tries to get the car. But unfortunately, last I checked, cars are a little bit faster than toys. So the car
We
got
could talk
away.
about this all day. We had RC chasing a moving van in the first one, and
That's
was
true.
still catching up, even though that he was doing circles around a dog in the middle of the road. So
That's true. Yeah.
I think
didn't
physics
think
have
about
gone
that.
out the window at this point.
Yeah. You're right.
Though the
they
spout
have.
thing, the spout scene was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty ingenious. Like, how can we get Buzz down there without making him do the whole "I can fly" thing again?
Yeah.
And it's, oh well, he's innovative. He can go down a water spout and then make his way to the car.
Yeah.
Which sadly not very successful in his rescue attempt.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but he does collect the most important piece of information, which is a scrambled up clue in the license plate and a feather. These two pieces of information seem innocuous independently, but together they form the entire part of Act 2, which kicks off when they're trying to figure out exactly what all of these clues mean. I loved the oh yeah, so they're sitting on the floor. All the toys had reenacted the entire scene. They have a little model of what happened, and they're trying to figure out which way the car went. And Rex walks into scene and says, "Does anyone know how to spell FBI?" Just lost it. Like,
And then a
Oh,
great
Rex,
one-liner
I love you.
immediately. A great one-liner immediately after of I think it's Ham. He's like, or maybe it was Potato Head. They're like, "Watch where you're going, Godspilla," because as he turns when he's saying FBI, he's spilling over the whole model of like where the car was going. That it's their model situation of Al escaping. It's just some great lines in here. As an adult, it's just like these are great. I mean, as a kid, you don't really notice them as much. You laugh at the fact that the model's been ruined for all these toys. But
Yeah.
at least as an adult, you're looking at this, you're like, man, the entertainment value, at least for me, is gold. Like, best way to at least spend my Thursday or whatever day that I watch this afternoon, just watching this fantastically entertaining lined movie. Yeah. Anyways, I'm giving this way too much fluff.
No.
They find out that, or at least Buzz finds out, that it's Al's Toy Barn from the license plate. And we got the really cool animation of Etch-a-Sketch, which I think
Yes.
is probably the unsung hero of the entire Toy Story saga. Where Etch-a-Sketch is just like, and like draws the chicken guy in a suit, or like Al in a suit. And, oh, jeez. And then, of course, a little bit later, they find the commercial of Al. And they find the directions to his place. And what's pretty funny is while they're flipping through those TV channels, if you look
They're
real
all-
closely,
Uh-huh.
they're all Pixar shorts.
Yep.
So
They're
that was pretty
all
funny. I'm like, oh, hey,
old
that's
Pixar shorts. It's like,
yeah. There's like the snowman. There's, I mean, even
The
one of the
Tin
Pixar
Man?
shorts I believe comes in.
they-
Is it a Tin Man? I thought it was a snowman.
No, well, there was a Tin Man and a Snowman. They're both in the channel flipping.
Oh.
Yeah, they had the
Gotcha.
Tin Man short. They also had the Bumblebee short, which was the very first computer animation ever, which is kind of cool. Computer animation in a 3D scene that's rendered on a computer. Yeah, I was like, hey, I know what that is. And then Ham's just over there like, we're already at 40. It'll be faster if I go the other way around.
Yeah, the call back to old TV where it's like, it doesn't matter. It just cycles, right? So if you're
Yep.
at like 40, you can get to channel 2 pretty quickly. You just head into the 50s, and if you
Exactly.
I don't think many people have the 60s, you just head back to the 10s or whatever. So, oh my goodness. Oh.
Yep.
Anyways, we're in Act 2 now, where we've got Al's apartment. We got Woody propped up in some glass chamber. And what I really notice is when Woody goes to try to escape, he can't reach the doorknob, but there's like a nice shot of like the doorknob so high on the door and Woody all the way on the ground. And I guess the detail on the doorknob looks really good. I don't know if they touched it up either on Disney Plus. I think that's the problem. I think I need to get some VHS going or some old DVDs of the movie, but at least the detail on the doorknob looks like a very nice brushed stainless steel. I'm like, wow,
Huh.
this
I
is
didn't notice
beautiful.
that.
Yeah, I guess I'm mainly watching the visuals in this, and then also listening to the gags.
Right. Pretty much why anyone watches Pixar's as an adult. Oh man, yeah.
Definitely. And then we're introduced to some really cool characters.
Yeah, I liked Bullseye as a character because the Toy Story 1 was really missing that energy, that playful puppy energy, which I think they did a little bit bring back with the dog, but I think they needed, like, on the toys level, like a little bit of that fun, unanimated energy. Like, all of the toys speak English, and all of the, well, most of the toys, I guess some of the toys don't, but all the toys that we've met speak English. And then there's Bullseye, who doesn't speak English and is basically just a big puppy. And it's just so fun to watch that kind of energy, you know, have those characters interact with that kind of energy. And I also wanted to make a quick note of how the framing and color scheme and the lighting of between Act 1 and Act 2 in Al's apartment, it was very gray, monotone, simple, boxy, kind of looked like a, you know, prison almost. And then Andy's room is all vibrant and yellow and sunshine and colors and beautiful. And it just really helps, even on, like, I know this movie is geared towards adults and children at the same time, but it really helps the children understand that this is somewhere that Woody doesn't want to be. And even after, spoiler alert, Woody decides later in the movie that he does actually want to stay with Jesse and Pete, what's his name?
Stinky Pete.
Stinky Pete. There we go. Stinky Pete.
Prospector.
Prospector. And when he just makes that decision, it gets a little bit brighter. Like the sun kind of comes out in that room. And so that's just something to note if you go through and watch this again. Like, the lighting is very telling of the character's emotions and kind of the meaning behind what's happening in the story, which, you know, is very good to have in more of an adult film because you can display different meanings with different lighting. You can juxtapose things. But with, like, a children's movie like this, it makes it really plain and simple exactly what the characters want without having to waste dialogue or, you know, anything else. It's just the color palette. So well done, Pixar, thinking all that through. They're on another level with all that. And yeah, so we meet Bullseye, and then eventually...
Bullseye's a horse, by the way.
Yeah, Bullseye is a horse. Not a puppy,
If
but
we
he has
didn't
puppy
mention
energy.
Bullseye is a horse that acts like a dog, which is pretty funny since I own horses. It's like, they do not act like this at all, and they can't bend that way.
No, they cannot bend that way. They will...
So this is a movie about toys, so you can do whatever you want with Bullseye.
Exactly.
But we learned that Woody is not just some random cowboy toy. He is the epitome of Western toys. He was the great, fantastic one that had his own TV show, had his own other toys, spin-offs of him, which kind of confuses me. It's like, okay, if there's a yo-yo that is, like, based off of Woody, does the yo-yo have the same emotions as Woody? Does it have a
Right.
conscience? Like, what's
Right.
going on with this? Or, like, some of the teeth knocking out ball throwing toy, like, does that thing talk as well, or is it just a stand? Like, it kind of brings into question what's a toy and what's a merchandise tool, I guess.
I think, to go a little bit meta here, I think the line in the Toy Story universe of where a toy begins and where an object begins is when a child loves it. When a child loves something, like, I don't know, you haven't seen Toy Story 4, but Forky is not a toy until Bonnie loves him, and then he becomes an animated toy. And so I wonder if some of these objects that Woody finds that are toys, they just are museum quality, never been loved. And, you know, I guess maybe Stinky Pete was never bought, so he was mint condition or something. So maybe that falls apart there.
He was on the top of the shelf, I believe, and everyone chose Woody or anything else, and he was left to sit there unopened in his box. In which we find out later, he's actually ventured out of his box before, he just doesn't tell anyone.
Exactly. Not so.
Yeah.
Not so.
Well, anyways, Woody's all starstruck by this, that he is this big star. He's got his own television series. He's got all these friends, and these toys that he's met are his compatriots in these tales that he's just meeting. Man, like it's kind of that sense of like, oh, this is like a home away from home, but at the same time, it's like, wait, hold on, I need to get back to my owner, Andy. And so, like you said before, there's this whole contention of, does Woody stay? Does Woody go? Does he try to escape? Or does he immerse himself in this? And eventually, with, I guess where the plot's going, is that Al's trying to sell these toys to a museum. And so he
Yeah.
won't be played with ever again, and he'll be stuck in a glass box with possibly Stinky Pete, Bullseye, and Jesse. That's probably it.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll be saved
But he'll live forever.
He'll live forever, according to Stinky Pete, which I don't know if Stinky Pete knows about museums, but they cycle through some things at times, especially with.
I was gonna say.
So either like they put the exhibit back in storage, which is something that Jesse really is opposed of, or they just get discarded, or they just get sold off.
Mm-hmm.
So Stinky Pete's reasoning is a little bit flawed, but it makes sense, right? From a toy who never really got played with. It's like, well, I don't really have that love. But anyways, we then
Well, I think we need to now address the side plot here that we got going on
so
here.
while Woody's
We
at
have-
Al's, we've got the other toys, right? And what are they doing?
The other toys are trying to make it to Al's Toy Barn. It's their mission. They do crazy things for toys, like run through bushes and run across busy streets and kill a few people and possibly a dog and stop up traffic in an entire block and intersection in a city. So, way to go, toys.
Yeah, that's thousands of dollars in damage, all because they were trying to get across the road. Why did the toys cross the road? To get to the chicken on the other side.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's just. See, the kids don't understand, but the adults do, and it just makes it that much more happy to rewatch these things. Because I laughed really hard at Potato Head getting his foot stuck in the gum, and I remember cracking up about that. And now that's not really funny; it's just cheap tension.
It is.
But it's the jokes that I just totally didn't get when I was a kid that are just so funny.
Yeah. And so you got these guys trying to get to Al's Toy Barn because that's where they think Woody is. Turns out he's not there. He's at Al's apartment. And they get to go.
Which is just a long drive. Man, I can't believe I have to drive all the way to work on a Saturday.
Exclaims Al as he
As
gets
Al
into
drives
his old
across the
car.
street.
Yeah, and then drives across the street. It's like, yeah. I mean, that would be the typical city complaint, right? Like, if you live in the city, it's like,
Yeah.
I have to drive all the way to work. It's like 2 miles away. While people who commute from out of the town are just like, 2 miles, eh?
My nearest neighbor's not even 2 miles away. Yeah.
But yeah.
So they make it into the closed Al's Toy Barn, which I always kind of rewatching this thought it was kind of interesting. Either it was a weird time of day, but like it doesn't make any sense for Al's Toy Barn to be closed.
Yeah, it's like the
during
middle of the day.
because exactly it would have to be like pretty early mid morning is when this is taking place because I guess I'm thinking of Toys R Us, which I think is now defunct, but growing up Toys R Us was always open in the afternoon at least. I remember many a times going in there with my mom or my grandma or whatever, and that was not in the evening during rush times.
No.
It's just in the middle of the day. So I'd imagine Al's Toy Barn had to have been open, at least at 10 or something. So this all probably happened in the early morning.
That's what I was thinking.
before
It was
they
probably
opened.
like a Saturday morning at 10 or 11 o'clock when the store is opening because, of course,
Yeah.
as you could tell from some of Al's employees, they're not really the most bright and eccentric people. They're very much like, oh, I have to stack the toys in the back again. It's probably because Al's taking all this money and trying to get all these collectibles and sell them off and get more money. But this is all
Hey,
speculation.
working for him.
Anyway, so they make
Oh,
it in
my.
there and they find many different things. They find a magazine that is the key to defeating Zurg, which I found very opportune for
Yes.
Rex because Rex is trying to defeat Zurg in his Buzz Lightyear video game. And apparently all the key answers are in this magazine, which is typical magazine. Right?
Right.
Like, here's a life hack.
Yeah. Here's a life hack. 10 Doge things about dogs, as Elon tweeted a few moments ago. That's exactly what all of the magazines are there for. Kind of lost track of where we're at. So I think after that
we're walking
we get
through the halls, right? And we catch a glimpse of
we get the halls
Fleek
and we get the
from
Buzz
Bugs
Lightyear
Life.
scene.
Did you notice that?
Oh,
We're
No, I
walking
didn't.
through the aisles and there's Flick. Oh goodness,
Mhm,
Flick.
Flick.
I think it's Flick. I'm thinking Fleek as in the term. Flick from Bug's Life is on the floor as an action figure, which I don't think I noticed as a kid. And seeing it now, it's like, oh, cool. Like, they're paying homage to Flick from their last movie that they just produced.
They're probably like, we need all of the assets, the 3D assets that you can find.
Or maybe they're just like pointing at all the people who didn't work on Toy Story 2 saying, oh, look, you're just playing with this toy while we were actually doing all the work.
True. Yeah. So then Buzz meets his counterpart / factory reset Buzz. What do we want to call him? Default Buzz?
Vanilla Buzz, maybe? Or Buzz with a really
vanilla.
cool utility belt. Utility belt Buzz. Because, man,
Utility belt
that
Buzz.
utility belt is such an upgrade, right? Makes him look good. Definitely accentuates his thighs or something.
I mean, my belt accentuates something.
Anyways, this Buzz that has this utility belt wakes up all because our Buzz somehow wakes him up and starts reciting Star Command code to our Buzz, saying that you're out of line, you need to go back into cryosleep, and ends up putting Buzz in cryosleep.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, which is cryosleep being just a Buzz Lightyear package that we saw from Toy Story 1.
Yeah.
But man, as a kid, it was a little bit frustrating, but as an adult, frightening, right? You're being strapped into a box that you can't get out of.
Yeah.
And then your friends come pick you up, and it's not you.
You're like, "Ah, it's me.
You've got the wrong toy. Or the wrong bus, yeah. Ooh.
But I just love the fact that as Barbie was driving around giving the tour,
because they find Barbies,
tour guide Barbie, she said, and here in 1995, short-sighted toy manufacturers did not order enough toys to fulfill demand, leaving these toys back ordered for lots of time. And I was like, oh, that's pretty funny, because I don't remember the retail situation in 1995, obviously, but I'm sure they were back ordered. That was probably like a little...
I feel like people were still trying to get Buzz
the,
Lightyear as a toy at that point. And we're very angry that Disney and Pixar were not meeting their expectations in terms of producing these toys somehow. But yeah,
Hey.
I caught that as well, and it gave me a chuckle.
Did you catch the line that Mr. Potato Head had? He says, "I'm a married spud. I'm a married spud. I'm a married spud," and then Ham's like, leave room for the singles" or something.
Basically pushes him out of the way.
Oh my gosh!
I was expecting that scene because it's probably one of my favorite lines in this. Another line that's coming up soon. That we'll cover, but at least, yeah, it was pretty funny. Just like this dude he newly married, I guess, or maybe a year into his marriage or whatever. He's right next to this supermodel tour guide Barbie.
Literally Barbie.
Literally Barbie.
Oh boy.
But yeah.
Let's see. I think we go back to.
Yeah, we go back to Owl's and. There's the scene
this is the
where,
sad part.
the scene where we get some exposition on Jessie, on why Jessie is so upset, why Woody's considering going back to Andy, because she's like, no, he's just gonna discard you. He doesn't care about you. And Woody's like, no, he does care about me. And we get the probably most heart-wrenching, maybe not most heart-wrenching, but pretty heart-wrenching scene of Jessie growing up, or not Jessie growing up, but Emily growing up, her previous owner, and Jessie seeing this transition from this loving child who could not spend a minute without her toy to ooh, nail polish
Under the bed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Replaced by.
I remember after I watched this, I was like much nicer to my toys. Like, it wasn't the fear factor of Toy Story 1 didn't change my opinion much on my toys, but like the emotions of my toys and like imagining them all being depressed when I'm not playing with them. Like, that's a lot of psychological weight to put on a 6-year-old. My goodness.
Yeah, definitely it evokes a lot of those feelings of just like, hey, you don't want to like discard your toy because one, they could be just sent to oblivion.
They could be sentient.
Yeah, either
They
sent
could
to
be sentient. You never know.
yeah, they could do something else, but either they're sent to oblivion or you just discard them on the side of the road like what Emily did with a Goodwill donation, which I mean, as a donation, I realized that as an adult, I'm like, oh, she's actually doing the right thing by trying to donate the toy. But as a kid, you're like, she just left her on the road.
Why? Yeah.
In which then we flash back to Owl's place, but I realized also the blinds that are partially open now because, of course, symbolism that Woody's starting to realize, ooh, maybe this museum thing is not a bad idea. But these blinds are typical 90s or early 2000s look of like blue swirls on it, like the blue color swirls. I don't know if you remember, Nick. On
the blinds themselves?
Yeah, so if you remember, like maybe on some old trucks or maybe some old like Slurpee cups from 7-Eleven.
Yeah. I know the blue purple swirl pattern.
Yeah, it was on these blinds as well, and I don't know whether that's just commentary on modern design of color and aesthetic. But looking at that, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this is definitely like era defining of fashion. Like, it's not like white or like just a single monotone color. It's like splashes of different color. Or this.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it then, because I normally pick up on little details like that. I didn't. I'm glad you pointed that out.
There's a lot of details in this. I mean, every single scene is.
Oh, I know.
A detail.
I mean, all Pixar, but.
Yeah.
So then after that we have probably one of the more fun lines of the entire movie, at least the two unexpectedly funny characters, the Rock'em Sock'em characters. We're back with the rest of the gang trying to find Woody, and I believe it was Ham asked one of the Rock'em Sock'em characters, "Hey, have you seen a cowboy with a hat?" And the guy's like, "Oh, I haven't." He said something like, "No, I don't think I've seen that." And the other rock guy's like, "Hey, he was talking to me." "No, he wasn't. He was talking to me." And just cut to the next scene. I'm like,
I believe one of those was voiced by one of the directors or writers of this movie as well. If I picked up on that fact as well. So there's a lot of these B or C characters that we meet that are nice, funny jokes of like toys that we had as kids. But they're voiced by these people who are running the show that have no voice acting experience necessarily, or at least that's not their profession. But yeah, pretty funny. And then we get back to Al's toy barn where Al's leaving with all the... the toys are following. Al's leaving. Buzz finally gets out of cryosleep.
Yep.
And the door's closing right behind Al. Sadly, doesn't make it. And
yep.
Yeah, bummer.
I was holding out hope for him. It was definitely a "you can fly" moment, and then it wasn't, and it was just.
Yeah, and something we didn't cover at least is getting into Al's toy barn. It's not an open door that you can just swing open. It's one of these automatic doors that are pressure sensitive to a mat in front of it. And so at least when they were getting into Al's toy barn, when Buzz was with the rest of his friends, they all jumped at the same time and triggered the door to open. But now it's just Buzz alone. And I guess I'm setting this up way too much. But anyways, he gets a whole bunch of boxes to fall on the inside of the door when he's trying to escape on his own. And as he's escaping, we see a fist protrude from one of the boxes. And it's the one, the only... my favorite character probably in Toy Story, honestly, just because he's the most ridiculous character ever. Emperor Zurg comes out with his cannon.
Late 90s purple and everything.
Very Darth Vader-esque. And then starts chasing Buzz as Buzz is running away, unbeknownst to him that his mortal enemy's behind him. But, of course, now he knows that he's a toy. But we have Zurg chasing him saying, "Destroy Buzz Lightyear. Destroy Buzz Lightyear. Destroy Buzz Lightyear." Just like the most serious moment for this toy ever. And Buzz is just like, I'm just running away.
Did you see there was a little it was like Zurg vision or something, but like I really liked how they showed what Zurg was looking at. They had a little hole in the back of his head, and it was like for the toy, you look through and see what the little toy sees, and it's obviously a toy. But instead of just having a cut from Zurg looking to a close up on, or like a telephoto in on Buzz running, that would totally tell us exactly who was looking at what, because people know how to watch movies. But this is obviously also geared towards kids, so they're very conscious about making it pretty obvious, but yet not heavy-handed what is happening. And so they just have a quick little pan from a close up on Zurg's face, and then around to the back of his head, and there's a little like look in here, and you look and they zoom in and go in there, and you can see exactly what Zurg is looking, and it's all red and hash marks and stuff. So it's supposed to be like that, and I was just like, that's pretty clever. Zurg Vision, that's what it was called. Yeah, Zurg Vision. And I was like, that's pretty clever. Like, they could have done that any other way, but like that was a clever way to do it. Bravo.
Which
Pixar. Bravo.
they nod at the beginning of the movie as well, when Buzz is running through the corridors in the video game.
Oh yeah, with the Z and the screen.
There's a giant Z of the whole entire compound, and then Zurg looking at it, but on the bottom of the screen it says Zurg Vision. So a nice callback to the very beginning of the movie, and how serious it was taking itself.
Yeah, and then we cut back over to the rest of the toys trying to get in, right? They were trying to get in.
Yeah, so this is the part that we talked about earlier, where they were
they
were going to pretend to be a delivery man delivering a hot dog, some fries, and a ham sandwich
in a toy. But thankfully Rex was reading the How to Defeat Emperor Zurg, and it told what do we call him? Utility Belt Buzz. That there was a secret door to the left. And lo and behold, Utility Belt Buzz serves his purpose and finds the air vent, which they can all crawl through and somehow get up to the elevator shaft.
In which apparently Utility Belt Buzz has some really cool upgrades. It's not just this really cool utility belt. He also has magnets that you could climb things on. And so they're going up.
They're real magnets because they work in the real world.
Apparently, they're going up this elevator shaft. Everyone's holding on to this grappling hook that's coming off of Buzz. And Utility Belt Buzz comes up with this idea of, I'm going to use my anti-gravity belt. That's going to get us up to the top. And he says, I'm going to let go.
And of course, like, no. Would he do it? Ham says, yeah, he'd do it. Just cuts to Buzz letting go.
Falling down this elevator shaft. Thankfully, the elevator's going up at the very same time, very close to them. So when they land, they only fall. I mean, probably toys don't feel too much pain, but they don't want to break.
Yeah.
But they start going up, and you have Buzz, or Utility Belt Buzz, having his moment in the spotlight of going up this elevator, thinking that he's gravity flying up, doing this really cool pose. But yeah. And then we get another very hilarious scene. So many bits in this movie. They find Woody at the end of this air vent, but the vent is closed.
Oh, yes. The use your head moment. I love that. Head. I love that. Rex is like, so how are we going to get out there? And Utility Belt Buzz says, well, use your head.
And it cuts to them running with Rex upside down, being used as a battering ram.
And he's like, I don't know if this is a good idea. And it works, thankfully. I just love how Rex is like the most insecure character, but like he's this ferocious T-Rex. It's just such a fun juxtaposition, and the vocal talent is just perfect. I don't recall the actor's name at the moment, but it's just the most like. Actually, that's Danny DeVito, isn't it? Now that I think about it, isn't that Danny DeVito? It sounds like Danny DeVito.
No, it's a Mr. Wallace Shawn.
Ah, okay. Well, still
a really great voice acting that breathes life into this ferocious yet innocent character that
exactly. That's a good way to say it. Yeah.
And then, of course, we get the very wonderful scene of Mr. Potato Head getting ready to fight off these other Western people to get him away from Woody, who was apparently being attacked, but not really being attacked. He was actually being tickled by Jesse. And so Mr. Potato Head goes to grab his angry eyes that Mrs. Potato Head packed in the back of him for, and puts his angry eyes on, and what do you know? They're boots.
Angry
He
boots.
starts running off at Jesse, totally misses Jesse, and Jesse's just looking like, what am I looking at?
What is going on here? What are you doing, Vegetable Man? Oh boy.
But yeah, then we get Woody basically, or no, then we get the introduction of Buzz again. Buzz catches up and basically accuses the utility belt Buzz as an imposter, and of course you get this whole scene of the two fighting at each other, and then Buzz doing the typical thing that Woody did at the very beginning of Toy Story 1 of popping the helmet, and utility belt Buzz is choking on nothing. And then they all realize it.
And then
real Buzz was the one that they left behind.
Andy Buzz.
Yeah, Andy Buzz.
Yeah, Andy Buzz has this smirk, and he just lifts his foot, and I don't know. There's something with that ANDY at the bottom of everyone's shoes that just is very heartwarming.
Which is something that we miss, actually, or that we missed. At one point, Woody had to get fixed, right? Because he's going to the museum. And so Al...
Yeah.
Or no, the arm gets...
Oh, that guy gives me the creeps.
The arm gets completely ripped off at one point, and Al hires a cleaner guy who is actually one of these other older guys who's in it. Or, sorry, he's a character in one of the Pixar shorts. But he's here...
The chess guy.
Yeah, he's here to repair Woody. Most, like, aesthetically pleasing scene that I've probably ever seen. Of just like cleaning a toy and like making him pristine. Yeah, the Q-tip to the eye. Even like when they start painting over Andy's name on the bottom of Woody's boot, which is a little bit heartbreaking, of course, because he's Andy's toy. Very like the brush meets the lines perfectly of the boot as it's moving up and then moving off of the boot. And then the arm is sewn back on.
Definitely an ASMR moment.
Yeah, definitely ASMR. But anyways, then Woody tells the actual Buzz that he's not going. He's not going back with them to Andy's. He's staying with Jesse, Stinky Pete, and Bullseye, which prompts Andy's toys to leave because Woody has made up his mind.
Yeah. It's so sad because they realized that he had made up his mind, and the best of friends won't try to change your mind even if they know it's not going to be good for you, and because they respect you as a person. And it was kind of fun to watch that in a toy animated character. Like,
yeah, we don't have Buzz on his arms and knees
to let you make mistakes.
Yeah, we don't have Buzz just being like, please come back, we can't leave without you. It's like, I get it, okay, if this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. We'll take care of Andy then. And then Woody then realizes, oh wait, there's another answer. We don't have to go to the museum. What if we all go back to Andy's?
Exactly.
In which Jessie has reservations, of course, because she's already been abandoned once and she doesn't want to be abandoned again. But then during this time, Stinky Pete gets out of his box and locks up the vent so that no one can get out anymore. You're out of your box. It's just like, you're out of your mind.
Yep. I caught that.
And then calls Buzz Lightyear. And then doesn't Buzz Lightweight. A callback to the very first.
Buzz Lightweight. Yeah, that was it.
You and your great. Buzz Lightweight.
There's some really good dialogue.
Yeah, some really good, really good dialogue from. Oh goodness, what is his name again? I totally forget. Oh, it's Kelsey Grammer. That's what it is. Kelsey Grammer voices Stinky Pete, who. He voices in other things. I can't think of him off the top of my head, but definitely some really good voice acting with Stinky Pete in this. Anyways, so then Woody's trying to figure out how do I fix this, and then Stinky Pete rips him again on his arm, signifying that you're not going to get fixed unless you come with us.
Yeah, you come to
And then
I was I was kind of sad at that moment when all hope seemed lost, because Woody belongs with Andy, and imagine how sad Andy's going to be when he comes back to realize that Woody's now in some Japanese museum. And it's the excitement that I felt when Woody ran to the grate and was like, "Wait, guys, I want to come with you." And he was like, "Hold on, let me go do something." And then, Stinky Pete sneaks out of his box and locks the thingy with a screw, and
which then prompts Act 3
is history.
of this movie, where it's not only Woody that's
Exactly.
having trouble with escaping Al's apartment building, but someone else also followed Buzz to Al's apartment, being the one, the only
Oh no!
Emperor Zurg, who magically appears on top of the elevator and is ready to tackle or go hand to hand against Buzz Lightyear. Thankfully, there's two of them this time, but I believe Utility Belt Buzz does most of the work in this case, which is probably the fighting sequence or action sequence, and this is actually not too bad for two toys just shooting plastic bits at each other.
You gotta wonder how many of those ammunition shots or ammunition balls Emperor Zurg has.
Yeah, I think I had a copy of him, or at least a little action figure, and he only had 3. He didn't have an infinite amount.
Bummer.
But yeah, and then of course...
Well, it's called a movie for a reason.
Yeah. And then another callback to Toy Story 1, where if you remember when Woody and Buzz are fighting underneath the Toyota truck, Buzz is getting hit by Woody, and there's a Buzz, Lightyear to the rescue, because Buzz has those little buttons on his chest. It happens again with Buzz fighting Emperor Zurg, where Zurg has Utility Belt Buzz on the ropes and starts hitting him against the elevator, where it's another Buzz, Lightyear to the rescue.
And then we have the most iconic line of the entire trilogy. Actually, no, there are now 4 movies, so what used to be trilogy. "No, Buzz, I am your father."
Plot twist.
Ba, ba, ba. And then Rex comes on scene, and he's just like, "What? No way! You need to defeat Zurg!" And then he inadvertently does it because he's such a klutz, and I'm like, I totally understand that feeling. Don't worry about it, Rex. I do that all the time. Like, accidentally knock something over and come to find out that's what I needed to do.
Yeah,
so,
Rex accidentally turns and his tail hits Zurg off of the elevator, down the elevator shaft, right when Zurg does exposition of "I am your father, Buzz Lightyear."
Exactly.
A callback to
perfect.
a movie that we might be covering in the near future.
Yep.
Stay tuned for that.
Maybe.
So anyways, after
Maybe
that
next week.
that very after that very emotional turn of events of Buzz Lightyear's dad being Emperor Zurg, we return to the only Pizza Planet truck, serving as our way for the toys to get out of Al's apartment.
Yep.
And getting them to airport.
Watching the toys drive is just so much fun. Watching any inanimate object drive in a animated movie is just always so much fun. How they delegate all the tasks, and then you got the aliens use the wand of power or whatever they called it.
Yeah, I totally forgot what they call it.
Anyway,
but yeah, and then you've got I think it's Ham on the bomb reading the instruction booklet for the Toyota.
It's just like, there's no way he's getting that mileage. And I just lost it. Like, oh, man. That's perfect.
I found it very ironic, just because usually when you get a toy, you read on the instructions of like,
oh, yeah.
like what is going on, at least, like how do I use this thing? And instead it's the toy reading the instruction booklet for the truck, just like, how do I use this thing? In which I don't think you would even read in a booklet on a car how to start the... Well, maybe you would. There's probably many booklets that have that. But at least for my car, there's no instructions on how to turn it on.
Okay, yeah, you have the fancy car. So,
well, I'm just saying in general, like, it's general knowledge that when you get in the car, you put the key in, and then you shift the magic wand, and then
But they're toys.
yeah, very true. So there's a little bit of innocence in there. Anyways,
It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
the wand of power gets them to the airport.
Yeah, and I noticed a couple times that instead of setting this movie in a city like Cleveland or New York or something, it's just Tri-County.
Yeah, some Tri-City area. It's like,
Or
okay.
Tri-City?
I think they say
Tri-City,
Tri-City.
yeah.
I think that's how they get
Yeah,
away
it's
with,
like-
oh, here's some city shots, but at
funny.
the same time, here's some rural shots. And you're like,
Exactly.
okay. So I get how they're
That
getting all
works.
these different places. It's not like they're in the middle of nowhere. They're really close to all
Mhm.
these different structures.
So they head off to Tri-City Airport, and man, if some terrorist wanted to do an evil and uncalled for act, I guess all you need to do is get some toys, because there's no security system at that airport.
No, they were free to walk everywhere. Even at one point, they get they're trying. So the reason why they're at the airport, I guess we forgot to mention, Jesse doesn't get out of the box, and neither does Woody.
Yeah.
They end up going with Al to the airport, and Al checks in his luggage angrily because he's
Yep.
trying to meet a deadline of trying to get to Japan because the sale went through for selling the toys to this Japanese museum. And Andy's toys catch up to the luggage, and what do you know? Apparently behind that wall, behind the check-in counter at the airport, it's not just some boring little conveyor belt. It's a whole entire labyrinth of conveyor belts everywhere.
Conveyor Beltotopia. And what are the odds that someone would have two identical green hard cases right next to each other in the airport?
There has been, I mean, it's
I'm
kind
calling.
of playing on the same idea that, like, there's times where you're at the airport and somehow some random dude on your same flight has the same luggage as you. Like, I remember as a kid, I had
That's true.
I had this red luggage, like, not too big of a luggage case, like, definitely like a small kid's luggage case, and it had
Yeah.
all my stuff in it. And then I get to my destination with my parents, and I go to pick up my luggage, and some other dude goes to pick it up. I'm like, what? And then he's like, well, sorry, look at the tag. And I look, and it's not my tag. I'm like,
Ooh.
oh.
Wow.
So it's not really that, not that unfounded, but it definitely works in the toy's favor when Andy's toys split off to go get one while some of the other toys go to split off to get the other. And of course, one of
Yeah.
them that they find at first is not the Woody's Roundup gang. It's a whole bunch of camera equipment.
Little did they know it would come in handy, though. A little bit later,
Apparently.
not even 30 seconds later. So Buzz, I believe Slink and Buzz were after the actual case that we're looking for. But Slink gets immobilized because he got his two sides split, unfortunately, on two different conveyor belts. And he's getting stretched slowly. So it's just down to Buzz to rescue Woody and Jesse and the prospector from this case.
Well, let's not
And,
forget Bullseye as well.
Oh yeah, Bullseye is in the case. I was like, wait a minute, but that was I literally just remember Buzz running on the conveyor belt towards the case. Who else was there? I'm like, oh, yeah, Bullseye was in it. Yeah, so that was pretty fun. He got a little bit of whipping by the prospector, but he succeeds, and then we got the flash mob.
Yeah, so Buzz goes to open the case, gets right hand hooked by Prospector, but thankfully Andy's toys come in the nick of time right before Prospector's about to, I think, get Woody again because Woody tries protecting Buzz. And then Ham and Potato Head come with all the flash photography and save the day. Prospector gets not put back in his case, he gets put in another case. And which then we learn later is some little girl who has a Barbie, and this little girl is quite the artist, isn't she?
She's an artist.
She's an artist.
She's an artist. Oh my gosh. Oh boy.
But yeah,
That was
so it
that
looks
was a
like
good throwaway scene.
everything's in the clear, but Jesse doesn't get out of the case in time and ends up getting put on the plane. And so what does Woody and Buzz do? Of course, they get on Bullseye and save the day.
Exactly. And Woody makes a quick decision to quickly hop inside of another suitcase so he gets discreetly delivered into the belly of the airplane so he can then rescue poor Jessie. And Jessie, after he opens up the lid of the box Jessie was in, Jessie was curled up in a little ball and she looked so depressed. And I was like, oh,
She's been abandoned. She's going to be put back in storage because no one's with her anymore. She's all alone.
Yep. Yeah, that would be about the worst case scenario for her. Go back to storage all alone.
Yeah.
But then they look like they're about to get off the airplane, and they were so close. And they even say, "Oh, there's a couple more bags. Don't close it yet." And they're about to, and it was all framed up for them to just be able to hop right out of the airplane, and then whoosh, the door closes.
Yeah, we'll put the extra baggage on the next plane.
Just like,
yeah. Okay.
That's an airline. Yep, that's it. Oh yeah, no, just put it on the next one. And then I love how, like, as soon as the door closes, it just immediately starts to taxi and pull back, and it's just like,
if only.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
so many great typical moments of like airlines being typical airlines, but then like quite the opposite of like, oh yes, we are backing the plane up now and leaving. It's like, what?
Exactly.
Hold on, this is like a whole 10-minute ordeal. How is this 30 seconds?
Right, yeah. But thankfully, there's an emergency exit, and Jessie and Woody are not stuck on the airplane all the way to Japan, so they're able to get out onto the front nose wheel of the airplane, and it
allowing
looks like
decompression to happen in the cargo of the airplane, which is not really safe for those passengers.
Well, that's very true, because they left the door open. There's no way that plane is going to be going to Tokyo today, because they'll get up to 5,000 or 6,000 feet and realize their pressurization system isn't working because, they got a big hole in the airplane, and they will land it. I'm sure there'd be an emergency light, though, as soon as that hatch was open. So
I would be pretty mad.
Yeah. There's no way Al was making it to Tokyo that day on that plane, at least.
And then, of course, just like RC from Toy Story 1,
yeah,
we've got Buzz to the rescue on some mobile unit, being Bullseye, chasing the plane, which is going at least probably at the time like maybe 10, 15 miles an hour, maybe not even that. And this toy horse is catching up. So again, physics is definitely being violated, but that's all right. It
out the door.
Serves the purpose of the story of Buzz catching up on departure for the plane going.
Yeah.
I forget how fast a plane has to go to take off, at least for a commercial.
About 175
aircraft.
Knots.
So it's going about 160 at this point, about ready to take off.
Yep. It was a little tense moment, but thanks to Woody's quick thinking, he used his voice box string to hook up onto a little nut, which sounds badly worded at that moment as I said it, but he hooks his thingy on a nut, and they make it out of there. And thankfully, his thingy comes off and pulls back in nice and easily, so they don't trip on it, because you don't want to trip on that thingy.
Okay, I'm just going to stop you here, Nick. They make it onto Bullseye with Buzz on top and Jessie and Woody on the back, safely departing from the plane without any thingies getting caught on other thingies.
Yep. Then we go back to Andy's room, right? There isn't any transition cuts between that.
No, they just go right back.
And Andy comes back from cowboy camp all excited and comes into his room, and there are new toys. And when he said this next line, it just brought a smile to my face. He just said, "New toys, great," or something like that. And I was just
Thanks,
like,
Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. I was like, oh, that's totally what I would have said when I was a kid. Like, if I came back from vacation and, like, there were new toys on my bed, like, that's exactly how I would react. It was perfect.
I'd be concerned if I was Andy's mom, though. These toys randomly keep on showing up.
Right?
Like,
or the girl who ended up with the Stinky Pete.
Yeah. Oh, like, cool, another toy.
How did you get this evil-looking doll? He just appeared on my bag. Oh, boy.
This doll. Probably a better fate than the next movie's villain that we'll cover at some point.
Yeah, poor Lotso.
And then we get Buzz given the emotional feelings towards Jesse.
Yeah.
The Space Ranger apparently has likened to the Western people after spending time with Woody and realizing, oh, maybe I do have some room in my heart for a cowgirl.
Ooh. Yep. Then Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head end up adopting 3 children.
Who are these children?
Well, they're kind of maybe not legal. Maybe they're aliens.
That's a good way to put it.
That was pretty funny. The aliens are like, "Daddy," and Mr. Potato is just like, "No, no, no," and Mrs. Potato is like, "Yay! my Spud's a hero." Just like, oh.
And then we get the sequence at the end that I kind of referenced with Wheezy getting a new squeaker.
Yes.
They apparently found a squeaker at the bottom of the toy chest, which concerns me on where that squeaker came from then.
Who did you have to cannibalize to get a squeaker?
I was gonna say, this is Sid's room all over again.
No. It's like when you donate your body to science, or you donate your organs when you die. That's exactly what some toys must do.
Jeez. But then we get this wonderful musical number. Oh my. Musical number of Wheezy singing You Got a Friend in Me, the staple of the Toy Story franchise at this point.
Absolutely.
Now. Sung by the great, I think, Joe Ranft. And we have a shot of Woody and Buzz and Bo Peep and Jesse kind of tapping to the beat of You Got a Friend in Me. And then we get an epilogue.
Yep. Like all the disco lights and...
Yeah, so the
What
epilogue,
was the
which is not really an epilogue, it's something that kind of started coming about a bit more with movies, is there's more content in the credits. At least for Marvel, they put it either a little bit before and a little bit after the credits. But for this movie, they have a nice little side screen on the left and then the credits on the right. And they have all these blooper reels of the filming of Toy Story 2. At least making it think that these toys are actually being filmed by some camera crew.
Yeah, I really appreciate this because as a kid I didn't really understand like why this was special. They have basically like bloopers at the end, and it makes a lot of sense because I've seen plenty of other comedies that are live action where they do have bloopers in the credits, and it makes perfect sense. But this isn't live action. There weren't actually any bloopers. Everything here was storyboarded and scripted and animated and re-recorded and cut, and there was no I'm sure there weren't many uncut scenes. The cut scenes that they cut, unused scenes that were fully rendered because render time was terrible back then. But they went out of their way to add these funny little bits that makes it just feel that much more real. And I know you probably want to talk about these different things, but in one of these little blooper scenes, the whole cast and crew kind of cracks up at a joke, and you see Jessie's there laughing, and she's just doubling over laughing, and a boom mic is lowered into frame, and I'm just like, okay, 2 things. Number 1, there isn't a boom mic because this is all just animated. And number 2, the boom mic is scaled for the size of the toy. So then I got to wonder, are the toys making this movie toys or people? Because that's a toy-sized boom mic. And then my whole mind got blown like, well, I guess if they have toys that are like filmmaking toys, like, toys that are production crew, then I guess that's what they would do, right? Would they want to get played by a kid? I don't know. And then I just have this existential crisis, and we cut to the next blooper, which includes a fart joke. So then I instantly forget about what I was thinking before.
We've got Bug's Life. We've got Flick and Heimlich also returned for Bug's Life 2, in which Bug's Life 2 is actually just them getting a small blooper reel roll on Toy Story 2, where they get brushed away by Buzz and the rest of the toys when they're getting towards the road to cross. When they're getting to Al's Toy Barn. But yeah, I appreciate it too. There's a lot of really funny, this is something that actually spurred me into wanting to make content. Like, it spurred me into actually making claymations as a kid. You could probably find it on the internet somewhere at some point. If you really look hard enough, you could probably find some of my claymations.
Ooh.
I tried being a claymation YouTuber. Shout out to Robert Benford. He definitely inspired me on that front, but sadly kind of waned out with school and a bunch of other things in life. But definitely, like, all these bloopers are just little small bits and oh goodness, the word escapes me, but at least not sizzle reels either. Anyways, just one-off jokes is what I'm trying to get to. They're little one-off jokes, like Woody sitting in a tape dispenser instead of sitting on the edge of it. Pretty funny. Definitely.
Like, that's something you'd only find in a live action movie, right? Like, they had to specifically think of that joke and make it, like, but it comes off so naturally, and it's just like, oh, this is perfect.
And then him getting up and trying
Bravo,
to walk
Pixar,
away
slow
with
clap.
the tape dispenser still, like, hugging his midsection and his legs as well. Just hilarious. But it definitely, this is what inspired me to at least be a little bit more creative, this movie, and especially the bloopers. Because that was probably one of my favorite things about this movie as a kid, is that there's scenes at the end that aren't included in the movie. It's extra movie. Like,
right?
You get more movies somehow.
You thought it was all over. It's not over though.
The very funny theater exit joke of tour guide Barbie.
I love that. I think that's probably the most quotable part of the entire movie for me.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Okay, are they gone now? Oh my gosh, my face muscles hurt. Oh, my cheeks. I need a break. Can I take a break? It's just like, yes. I feel that all the time. Sitting here smiling for an hour and a half. Hi. You know, a little meta. My cheeks do hurt right now, so I will... I have to say, I'm probably not going to smile this much this evening because
it's definitely... Toy Story 2 is a movie that makes me smile throughout it. Like... I always caught myself, like, it'd be just a random scene that isn't of significance, and I catch myself smiling, and I'm like, wow, like, this movie was very special. Toy Story 1 is special because it's the original, but Toy Story 2 is special in the fact that it basically is up there with Toy Story 1 in terms of quality and quantity of what it provides and what it offers. Yeah. And again, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this podcast, this was a movie made in 9 months. Like... I mean, they probably had a lot of the animation assets kind of down at that point, but like the story got rewritten and it got produced within 9 months. Amazing. I guess for those who are a little bit more interested in financials, its budget was $90 million at the time. And the box office came back with, I don't know if it was a net gain or just the box office gains of $497.4 million. So it gained at least $400 million from this, which is astounding. Wow. Or at least at most, I should say. Maybe not at least, at most. And this is a movie released in 1999, the end of 1999, so right before Y2K, where everyone is worried about what's happening. But it also scored 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And why I say all this is just because this is it's a movie that's not just for kids, it's for adults. And it's got so many great qualities in it, both attention to detail from some of the animations. Some are rough, but it's okay. To the jokes that they provide and how the story arcs. It's not really like bam, 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 just trying to get you through the story. It's like, hey, hold on, let's take a moment. We're in a toy store. Look at all the different references that we can make and all the jokes that we can make as well with like Hot Wheels and other things. This is definitely...
And then just the deep psychological impacts on each one of the characters. Like, you really get to know Jesse and Woody and Prospector Pete and the loneliness that they're sharing. And it's like, that's a deep adult topic. And they made it in such an approachable way for kids to be able to kind of understand and comprehend that. And obviously it's not to the depth that an adult can understand it, but... there's still that, oh my goodness, my toys might be depressed if I don't play with them. Oh my goodness, now I gotta go play with all my toys. Stressful.
Definitely made me think about my toys when I was watching this.
I was thinking of grabbing, I still have 2 or 3 old toys that I have kept around. I need to go dig them out and just appreciate their physicality and walk down memory lane. Maybe get down on the floor and set up a whole army with Dr. Evil pork chops. And
So I'll pose the question to you then, Nick, since you posed it to me for the last episode. How do you rate this movie?
okay.
I think our scale is out of 8 out of 8.
Out of
so
8,
what would
yeah.
you give this?
Let's say 6 out of 8.
6 out of 8. So 8 being the best, 1 being
6
the
out of
worst.
8.
So you think this is definitely
Absolutely.
worth the watch for our viewers, at least.
Definitely worth the watch. High B, low A in movie quality. I really appreciate the rewatchability of it, even as an adult. I also appreciate all the childhood nostalgia that this has, because for me personally, this doesn't go, this isn't applicable to anyone else, but as a kid, our family owned Toy Story 1 on VHS, but my grandma owned Toy Story 2. And so I have a lot of fond memories of Toy Story 2 because I only got to watch that when I was at my grandma's house. And grandma's house is way better than my house, right? So I have a lot of fun memories with Toy Story 2 and grandma's house, which is, yeah. So it's a very good nostalgia movie, and it's still rewatchable. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I laughed quite a few times. Like, just all the adult humor that's in there that you totally miss as a kid. And it's just perfect. I love it.
I agree. I definitely agree. I don't think we gave a rating for at least Toy Story 1. I think we started that for Star Wars. But I'd say if Toy Story 1 was a 6, this was a 7, at least in my book.
Oh, it's better.
I thoroughly enjoyed watching this. Like, I of course, I take notes for this a little bit just to keep up to date on the plot and what other fun facts are with it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess a little peek behind the curtain for us watching these movies and talking about them. But at least for me, it was hard to take notes because I was just always caught up watching it and enjoying it, and probably one of my favorite childhood movies. Definitely happy that we covered it, Nick. It was a very great trip down memory lane of me as a child watching it and then me as an adult watching this again. Really enjoyed it.
Same here, man. It was very good, and I wouldn't have thought to watch this movie on an evening because I don't watch many movies these days. But I appreciate us having this reason to get together and walk down memory lane together and enjoy some old cult classics. Do you know what we're watching next week, Mike?
You mentioned it a little bit at the beginning.
This should be a
but
little
we're going to be watching this little movie because, as you might be telling, or not telling, you might be noticing a certain trend that we're doing. We started with Toy Story 1. And then we got to Star Wars Episode 4, and now we covered Toy Story 2. So I'll leave it up to you to kind of figure out what the next one is. There might be some references that we made in this that are referenced in that movie or come from that movie, but we do have another.
Actually, I think Toy Story 2 should be considered a spoiler for this next movie that we're going to watch.
But at least we do have another special surprise for the next episode. So please tune in for the next one.
Yes, there is a surprise.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this. Bye-bye now.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye now. Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye. Are they gone yet?
I think
Are they gone? Okay, good. My cheeks hurt so bad.
All right, I'm hitting stop record.
Best ending ever.